You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
What a beautiful day for horses in the morning.
You are listening to the #1 horse podcast in the world. Here's your entertaining look at the horse world and the people in it.
Well, I am Glenn the Geek from Ocala, Florida.
And I'm Jamie Jennings in Norman, Oklahoma. You're listening to Horses in the Morning on the Horse Radio Network for Wednesday, September 17th, episode 3777.
We continue the second annual Poop Week brought to you by Zoetis. Good morning, Horse World. Well, before we do dive into poop today, get the bad pun there. I gotta say, right before the show started, I saw that Robert Redford died. He died at 89 years old.
I mean, life well lived, but this one really hurt me this morning. Just really hit me. You know, there's no movie that brings me more emotion than Out of Africa. Like I could sit down and watch Out of. I've seen it 7,000 times, and it is like heart wrenching and happy and sad and all the things. And what Robert Redford does is walking you through so many emotions, you know.
Out of Africa is 40 years old. It was put out in 1985.
It's just another episode to remind me how old I am, Glenn. Thank you.
And The Horse Whisperer, of course.
Yeah, and The Natural. Oh my God, one of my favorites, a baseball movie. You've probably never seen it. I just watched A River Runs Through It with Lucas.
And of course,
really
the
sad.
classic Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I mean,
absolutely.
From 1969, that was.
Those guys are hanging out up there. Paul Newman and Robert Redford are sitting on a cloud right now watching everybody. So life well lived, amazing human. And he did a lot of things for the earth and he did a lot of good, you know, that he didn't. Sometimes people in that echelon forget about other people, and I just feel like he never did.
I think he was one of the good guys, right? One of the genuine guys out there in the acting world, which there's probably not as many as we hope there is. But I also forgot he was in the Marvel movies. He was in Avengers and Captain America and stuff. I forgot all about that.
That's how I was able to tell Lucas who it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That and All the President's Men. I mean, just so many of them.
It's a long line of it.
Rest in peace, Robert Redford. Okay, let's get on with this.
You've heard of Shark Week. Well, now there's something even more sinister. Welcome to Horses in the Morning Poop Week. Yeah, an entire week talking about your horse's poop. Buckle up for a slippery ride.
I mean, that one line was a little too much.
Hi, this is Katie from Vermont, and I'm calling with my poop story. So my niece was at a barrel race, waiting to go in, and my sister and I are standing next to her, and we're all watching the rider in the arena and not paying attention to her horse, when we suddenly hear someone saying, "Oh, gross, it's all over me." And we look behind us, and her horse is squirting poop out, and it's splattering the guy in the lawn chair that we accidentally parked next to.
It's not funny, but it's funny. That's right. It is Poop Week. We shovel it, we study it, we test it, we move it, we spread it, we compost it, we throw it at each other as teenagers. I know you said you didn't do that, but I think you're one of very few.
That's a boy thing.
Yep, it's horse poop. So this week we're discussing all things horse poop, and today we continue with Dr. Carey Williams. She's an equine extension specialist with Rutgers University, and she's going to chat with us about all things pasture and manure management. We got a lot of questions from the listeners about when do we spread the poop? When is it safe to spread the poop? How many horses per acre? All of that stuff. And I had a chance to talk to Carey last week, and we're going to answer all those questions for you. She was absolutely terrific. And then also, Dr. Roddy joins us, Dr. Erin, to answer the most requested topic for Poop Week, which is free fecal water syndrome, which I got to be honest, I have no idea what that is. So apparently other people are dealing with it, because that was a question that we got asked a lot, and Dr. Erin's going to deal with that question. Plus, we have weird news, right, at the end of the show?
Yes, of course we do.
Okay.
It just never stops.
I figured you might have a few. And then we'll do a post show. We have no idea what that's going to be about, but hang on, auditors, for the end. We'll do a post show for you. In the meantime, let's do this. That's right. It is. We do have one auditor birthday, Tanya Fleming. Happy birthday to you. And we have two new auditors as well, Laura and Robin. Thank you guys for joining the club and being part of the auditor family. And if you haven't requested to join the Facebook group yet, it's HRN Auditors. You can just request it over there.
I don't know if this is a daily Whinnie or not, but I'm having some marital issues, and my husband's not in here. And
What does Ashley call those? The not daily Whinnie one. What does she call them?
The buck off, daily buck off.
Is this a buck off instead of a daily Whinnie?
Yes, I'm giving it to my husband. Okay, so here's the deal. I don't sleep very well. That's no secret. We all know it. Glenn, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to turn this to you. Do you sleep with the TV on or with anything on to help you fall asleep?
Jennifer and I have this problem too. So we have this problem too. Jennifer likes to sleep with something on. Now, she now uses her phone and actually uses earbuds. She actually falls asleep that way. I can't have anything on. I have to have quiet.
So she just puts in earbuds?
She just puts in the earbuds, yeah. Otherwise, with the TV was on, I just couldn't get to sleep with the TV on because I'm listening to it and then I'm focusing on that and I'm not sleeping.
Okay, well, here's the thing. We're going to put the TV on, and we're going to put the TV on something that we've seen 9 billion times, so we don't have to think about it. I talked to my friend Larissa about this, and she was like, we were in a hotel room, and I'm like, do you want the TV off? She was like, excuse me? What, you want me to go to sleep in silence like a psychopath?
So wait a minute. Which one are you? Are you TV on?
I need it. I need something. So what I
and
figured
he's TV
is
off?
He needs nothing.
Yeah,
dead silence. Because this is a man who he can walk into a hotel room and lay down and sleep for 10 hours, and I want to punch him in the face.
Jennifer's a good sleeper too. It makes me mad.
Oh, so last night it's like the whole thing. Like I turned the TV on. He was asleep before me. He just got back from a long trip. He was a dead asleep. And I'm like, listen, it is freaking 9 o'clock. If I go to sleep right now, I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. I have to make it till at least 10:30. Otherwise, I wake up in the middle of the night. So I got to stay up till 10:30. It's like a new thing I'm learning. So I turn the TV on and it's about 10:30. And so I roll over, but I'm watching a very familiar movie. And so I roll over and I get comfortable with my pillow and I'm like settling in to listen to it. And that son of a gun grabs the remote and turns it off.
I see, I would too.
Yeah. But here's the problem. I wasn't asleep. And so then what happens is I wake up like a crazy person, psychotically angry at the fact that he turned off the TV. And then if I go to turn the TV back on, then I have to find the episode again that I was in search of. Oh my God, I lose my mind.
Time for separate rooms.
Well, I have figured out that what I can do is I have some, it's like a headband with the Bluetooth speakers in it, but I don't want to sleep with that all night. That's for a 3 a.m. wake up. Okay. Like I don't want to can't live like this.
The other thing we have is the fan. We fight a lot about the fan because she wants it on airplane takeoff mode.
Yeah.
And I want it on the lowest setting possible because I hate airplane takeoff mode. So
listen,
that's
Glenn,
the other one. So we compromise in the middle.
Menopause and perimenopause, you can decide what temperature to sleep at. Until then, the wife wins. I don't understand. And so then I'm like, I'm just going to go out in the living room. And he's like, no, don't go. And I'm like, so this morning he comes out, because I'm already up, because I'm up. I got the kid ready. Everything's good. He comes out and he's like, hey, good morning. I'm like, don't touch me. He's like, what is wrong?
Time for separate rooms. You'll be much happier.
I'm like, I can't take it. I think I can't take it. Your behavior at night is unbelievable. You're already asleep. Why do you turn off the TV? And so I watched a comedian talking about it. He was like, with his wife, he's like, if I turn the TV off, she just wakes up. So what I have to do in the middle of the night is slowly tick down the volume. And I'm like, why? I sent him that. And I was like, that is real. That's real life. You have to do. You can't just turn on the TV.
Or just go out to the couch.
Cold water thrown on my face. So yeah, next time you're on the couch. I've already gone to the couch twice this week. And last night I was like, I can't take it anymore.
Auditors.
I want to murder him.
How many of you have the same problems that Jamie and I do? But as far as this topic, it sounds like we both have it, so everybody else has to be dealing with it too, you would think.
I think that the sleep thing is just like, I'm sorry.
And why do we never find a partner that has the exact same sleep habits we do? You never do. It's always the exact opposite.
I've been working on my sleep for 47 years, and I feel like
but let's be honest. You and I are the problem because we suck at it. We suck at sleep. So Jennifer's great at sleep.
So don't mess with our system. She's great at sleep because she has a system. I don't know how she sleeps with earbuds in her ear. I'd lose my mind.
She does.
That has to hurt.
She does. I don't know. I don't know either. I couldn't do it either.
Nope.
All right, let's get on with Poop Week. I have a random poop fact for you. So the medicinal use of horse manure goes back a long way, and it was actually used in early pharmacology. You want to know what they used horse manure for?
People use horse manure for medicine?
Both externally and internally to treat a variety of ailments.
You're just too clean. You need some worms. Just suck it on down.
So as a poultice or ointment, the most common use was as a topical treatment. Horse manure was mixed with other substances like vinegar, wine, or herbs to create a poultice. This was then applied to wounds to stop bleeding. Soothe inflammation or draw out infection. Wouldn't it create infection? That's what the question was.
You do have some lower back pain. Maybe I'll wrap some horse poop around my...
Wouldn't it create infection on an open wound? Some nurse, please tell us that killed more people than it helped.
That's probably also the same time where they would bloodlet. So
right, with leeches. The rationale for this was rooted in the observation that high moisture and fiber content of fresh manure could create a warm, sterile-like environment when applied as a dressing. But isn't that what you don't want? I don't know.
It's definitely not sterile-like. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't remember.
You know what else
this
it
in
treated?
any medical textbooks.
You're going to love this. It also treated gout and fever. Some medieval medical texts suggest the use of horse manure in concoctions to treat gout and fever. The belief was that the internal consumption of these foul-tasting substances would purge the body. Yeah, it would. No kidding. And it would, I love this word, it would help the imbalance of humors believed to be the cause of the disease. Humors. I like when they said that.
Well, I mean, obviously, also what would cause a disease is all of the evil spirits that you have to ward off.
Well, apparently they got rid of those with this concoction. They said it was often potent and unpleasant. Well, no kidding. It was made of horse manure, so it was
cool.
Bound
that
to be
sounds
potent
delicious.
And unpleasant.
Again, sometimes how glad are you to live in our times, even though they're crazy? Sometimes it's better to not live in a place where they would make you ingest manure. Simplify your quest for fall deworming. Only Zoetis Quest Plus Gel controls both encysted small strongyles and tapeworms in a single dose. Consult your vet for assistance in the diagnosis, treatment, and control of parasites.
Well, coming up, our first guest today is Dr. Carey Williams. She's an Equine Extension Specialist and Professor over at Rutgers Equine Science Center, and she's kind of an expert on pastures and all things pasture management, and we're going to chat with her, and I actually asked her a bunch of the questions I got from our auditors. Dr. Williams, thank you so much for joining us in Poop Week.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for the invitation.
Now, growing up, did you ever imagine to be talking on something called Poop Week later in your life?
No, not at all. And, I was probably the typical little horse kid that, I clean stalls, but, that's about as far as that went.
And now look at you. So today we have you on to talk about one of the most commonly asked things we get from listeners. And that's, how do you deal with poop as far as your fields are concerned and your pastures are concerned? And there's lots of questions that we actually got from listeners that I wanted to ask you about. But first, do you have a horse?
Yes, I do. Yes, I have young. He's 8, and we do a little bit of dressage and a little bit of jumping.
Oh, wow. Cool. Very good. What's his name or her name?
It's Palmer is his barn name, but Jaguar Valor, WG, is his formal registered name. He's actually part thoroughbred, part warm blood. So.
Oh, wow. Very cool. And do you have fun with him?
I do. I've always had fun with my horses. I even have leased out my older horse. She's now 27. She's doing some low-level dressage now as well. So
wow.
I've had them for a long time.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. You want to get to some listener questions about how to handle pastures?
Yeah, bring it on.
All right. The first one was horse manure as a fertilizer. Is it good, bad? You know, what's the real scoop as horse manure as a fertilizer?
Yeah, so it can be good. And I think, and I hate to disappoint a lot of listeners, but spoiler alert, I'm going to have a lot of it depends and maybe sorts of answers. I have a feeling to a lot of these questions because if you think about it, what goes in the horse comes out of the horse. You know, you are what you eat. That is the same for our horses. So fertilizer can be good. It can have the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium components that our grasses need. However, depending on what the horse is eating, some of these things can be too excessive or too high or too low. For example, high protein diets, horses are going to have more nitrogen excretion, so the manure is going to be very high in those sorts of things. Same goes with potassium and phosphorus. So it can be good. It just, you have to also watch how much you spread and when you put it on the field, et cetera, et cetera.
How often should you get your fields tested, your soil tested? And is it important? Okay, so let's say I have a 40-acre farm and I have 5 different pastures. Is it important to have every pasture tested, or can I just get one test done and covers everything?
Yeah, so I'm so glad you talked about and asked about soil testing, because that was my other, it depends question, because I can't have answers that satisfy the requirements for all farms until you know what's in the soil. So, the grass is going to take the nutrients out of the soil and you don't know what's in there until you test. So typically we say every 3 years for a soil test, because the nutrient content of that soil change very slowly. And it really doesn't matter how much you put on there, it still changes very slowly. If you're actively adding a lot of amendments, whether it's fertilizer or manure, et cetera, you could test yearly, but there might not be a whole lot of changes until you get to that 3rd year. Your answer or your question about a 40-acre field, it depends as well. So the topography, look at the topography, because I assume, and I'm just going to qualify here, the Midwest, Kansas, et cetera, that has very flat topography and all the 40 acres look very uniform. You could probably test them in one batch. Just make sure you get a uniform sample of the whole 40 acres. However, some places here in New Jersey and up in the Northeast, there's a lot of mountainous or hilly country, same with out west. You're going to want to sample the different topographies differently, because what's uphill when it rains runs downhill. So you're going to have different nutrients on the top of your hilly pastures versus at the bottom or in the valleys of your pastures. So then it really doesn't matter what fence is there in the pasture, but you'll want to sample the higher ground separately from the lower ground, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Where do you get the testing done? Where should you go?
Yeah, there's a lot of different organizations that do it, both at universities, which I always refer people to their cooperative extension office in their county. And in order to find that, they can just Google their state's cooperative extension and then look up their county. So that's one way to do it. Most states are going to have a lab either in their university or have a referral for a local lab. There are also a lot of companies that can do it. They might have a little bit different pricing scale. I know here at Rutgers, we have our own Rutgers soil testing lab. So anybody listening from New Jersey, you can just Google Rutgers soil testing lab and all the information will come up about how to test, where to send it, what to do, et cetera.
Okay. So another question from listeners is, can you spread, so a lot of our listeners, and actually we did a survey about that, and it was interesting. A lot of our listeners will do the manure pile, right, and rotate it, compost it. Can you spread that on the same pasture your horses are grazing on, or do they need to be rotated off for a period of time if I'm going to spread by pile?
Yeah, so you mentioned a little bit about turning and composting it. If that manure has been composted fully, it's basically black dirt, and you don't need to worry about rotating horses off or any of that. You can spread it right on the field. Just you don't want it too thick. You definitely want to make sure that you're able to see the grass through it, because otherwise the grass isn't going to be able to grow. So it needs to be a thin layer. However, if you don't compost it and you basically take it out right out of a stall or right out of a manure pile that might have only been sitting for, a couple of weeks, that's still fairly fresh manure. And what it's going to have in there is weed seeds and parasites. So what I would be very careful with when spreading it on a field that actively has horses is that you're just spreading more weeds through your field, and you're also spreading more parasites. And I know you guys just had a worm and parasite talk, so I won't get into that. But really, ideally...
Well, she said, she said, basically, you need to... We asked her, should we pick up the paddocks or is spreading with the drag okay? And she basically said you can spread with the drag, but you need to do it every 3 days because of the worms maturing, basically.
Okay.
Gives the poop chance to dry. Is that...
Yes.
Okay.
So that was my qualifier. I wasn't really going to give a day limit because some climates that are a lot wetter are going to need to be spread more often than in drier climates. Okay. Really, we say when it's hot and dry. That's the best time to spread, hot, dry weather. You never want to spread on frozen ground because it's not going to get incorporated in the soil. It's just going to sit on the top. And even if it's like a hard freeze, it's still not enough to kill the parasites. Spring is a really ideal time. However, it's typically wetter in the spring, so you probably need to spread more often, or drag it basically so it's thinner on the soil more often. But really hot and dry weather is the ideal time to spread.
Let's go back to the manure pile. I don't want to get off of that yet. So your compost pile, your manure pile. Last year we had a homesteader on who's fantastic, and we learned a lot from her about the manure pile. So she basically said your manure pile should be at least 50% organic matter and 50% poop. But she said the mistake that most people make is it's all poop. Do you agree with that? What's your thoughts on that?
For a good compost, it does need to be a mixture of things, whether you add leaves to it, whether there's straw bedding in it, whether there's food waste in it. Something else does need to be added to the poop, yes, because poop alone won't compost very well just because of its nutrient composition. The problem is I know a lot of horse farms in our area use a lot of wood shavings, and wood shavings take a very long time to break down. There's a lot of carbon in them. So in order to get them to really break down, you need to counter it with a lot of nitrogen. And sometimes the horse manure doesn't have enough in it. So you're either adding more or the timing of the composting is taking a lot longer. So that's why, and we actually did a study here at Rutgers looking at different forms of bedding and what composts the best. And really it was those straw products, whether it's a pelleted straw or raw straw or something along those lines, actually compost way better than some of the wood-based products do.
Can I say, as a horse husband, I hate straw stalls because cleaning them's a pain in the
ass. Believe me, I have cleaned my share of straw stalls, and I absolutely hate it as well. So I totally get it.
How long does it take a compost pile to compost? I know that depends on weather and geography and things too. So I have two questions. Yeah. How long does it take to compost, would you say, on average? And then how often should I turn it? Should I get the front end loader out and,
So here's my clause there. I am not an expert in composting. Okay. So let's start there. Okay. But we have done enough here at Rutgers, and I've collaborated on a lot of studies. That 90-day mark seems to usually be, kind of that good for a decent compost mark. Again, it does depend. Are you testing the temperature? Are you rotating and turning it often? Do you need to add any water? Because sometimes it gets too dry, and especially if it's covered, you need to add a little water. But usually, kind of that 90-day mark is decent for that, but it really does depend on how you're doing it. If you're just going to leave it sit in a manure pile, just want everybody to realize that's not composting. That's decomposing, and it's very different And a lot of people should understand that the quality of that decomposed manure is very different from compost and composted manure, which is actually ideal. That's what we would love to have every farm to do, compost before they spread.
That's interesting. So if you have smaller paddocks, I'm going to ask you the same question, actually, I asked the doctor on Monday, and I want to get your opinion. So should I pick those paddocks, or is raking it good enough?
So here we go again. It depends. And it depends, one, on the stocking density in those paddocks. If there are a lot of horses and there's a lot of manure in there and you start to spread it, it's going to end up being too thick of a layer on top of the grass, and it could actually kill the grass. So it could actually do more harm than good. Also, if you have more of a dry lot and it doesn't have a whole lot of grass there, you should absolutely pick the manure out, because then there's really nothing to take up the nutrients from the manure. So the minute you get a rain, even if it's flat ground, really, you're going to get erosion, you're going to get runoff, the nutrients are going to go somewhere else. So you really need that grass to uptake the nutrients. So one, it depends on the stocking density in the fields, the size of the fields, along with how many horses are in it, and and whether it's a good pasture or just more of a dry lot or an exercise lot.
You brought up a number of horses, basically per acre. We've always, in the past, everybody's always said 1 horse per acre is a general rule, right? Matter of fact, a lot of municipalities use that as far as how many horses you're allowed to have on your property. So
correct.
I know there's been lots of studies on that. What's the current thinking?
So if you want your horse to get nutrients from the grasses as part of its nutrition, we say 2 acres of good pasture grass per horse. Okay. Now that is used for nutrition. So
if you want nice grass and you want your horse to have grass, then it's 1 horse per 2 acres.
Then it's per 2 acres, exactly.
And that might depend on climate too, obviously. Right.
Absolutely. There's so many, and that's why I keep saying, I'm going to say it depends a lot. And I tried to avoid doing that this time around, even though it really does, because yes, climate is definitely a factor. We have some townships here in New Jersey that, 1-to-1 is the max, and they hold fast on that, but it's really not for any other reason than aesthetics. They want to be able to have a little bit of green in their township, so they don't want people overgrazing their fields. And then having them turn to dirt or mud. The same thing goes, though, if you have a dry lot and you don't want grass, you can put multiple horses in a half-acre dry lot or a half-acre, paddock. Just realize that you're not going to be using the grass for nutrition. You'll have to be probably picking up the manure and probably feeding a lot of hay. So I usually say kind of somewhere between that 1-to-1 or 1 horse or 2 acres, if you really want decent grass to be used for their nutrition.
Perfect example of what you were talking about is Norco, California. I think there were 10 horses per half an acre. It's like a whole different ballgame.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we've had some excellent farms manage 30 horses on a 10-acre property, and that was the whole property, and they do it very well, but it's a lot of intensive management, and you're feeding a lot of hay versus using grass for their nutrition.
So what other messages do you want to leave people with as far as pastures and pasture management is concerned?
I do think you kind of hit the nail on the head with the soil test. Always make sure that you soil test. It's cheap too. That's the good thing. Before you're spending a lot of extra money on fertilizer and spreading needs, definitely soil test. It's not a bad idea too if they do have a big pile, whether it's composted or dry manure or whatever, they can test that as well. That way they actually know what is in the manure before it even goes on the pastures. And, like I said, it depends, and the manure that comes out of the horse is what goes in the horse, it's really hard to give a firm answer for what's in it unless they get it tested.
Got it. Do you want to hear the results of our poll as far as what people do with their poop? So we had a couple
I'd
hundred
love to.
responses, and it was across the board. Haul it away by a paid service was 14%. Spread it on the fields directly was 16%. Compost and then spread at the fields, you'll be happy to know, was the highest number at 36%.
Wonderful.
And then compost and use it at the garden was 13%. So it really was spread across the board.
Yeah. Wow. That is, and it was, let me ask this, a nationwide survey?
Well, this is
this
is our super fans, our listeners. So they're all over the country. Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, that makes me very happy to hear that people are utilizing composting as well as that. And they can. Any size farm can have even a small compost pile. There's ways to do it.
Just get that organic matter into the compost pile. That has stuck
Exactly.
with me since we discussed that last year because it's something I really didn't know.
Yep.
Yep, that's
absolutely.
the one thing that really stuck with me from last year's poop week, and I'm obsessive now about making sure it's got bedding in it and stuff. So,
Yep, absolutely.
It's something this horse husband can like focus on. The manure pile.
Wonderful. Hey, whatever works, right?
Dr. Williams, you've been great. This has been terrific. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for the invite. This was fun.
And it's rutgers.edu, right? Where they can find you and all of what your work you do?
Yeah, actually at the Equine Science Center, just put esc.rutgers.edu, and there's all things equine there, and they can reach out to me that way as well.
You guys have a lot of educational stuff on there, too, I saw. So
we do, and a lot on manure. So definitely reach out there. We got a lot on poop, a lot on pastures, and just a lot of good horse information in general.
Thank you, Dr. Williams.
Non-GMO whole food nutrition is the basis of the entire Daily Dose Equine program. We never forget that natural is better and simplicity is key. Our full line of specialty horse feeds is unique in the industry. We start with high-quality non-GMO grains that are flame-roasted for safety and better digestibility. And then we add non-GMO alfalfa, timothy, peas, sunflower seeds, and flax. Your horse will enjoy unsurpassed balanced core nutrition with elevated levels of vitamins, zinc and copper, prebiotics, probiotics, and electrolytes in every mouthful. Find the perfect formulation for your horse at dailydoseequine.com. Select Daily Dose Equine formulations are available nationwide through Chewy.com and TractorSupply.com.
So I have another random poop fact for you today. Biological warfare using animal and human waste was very popular back in medieval times, including horse manure. It was a documented tactic during ancient and medieval sieges. The method of attack was crude but often effective. So what they would do, if you would lay siege to a town, sometimes those would last years. And it depended how much food they had in the castle, right? How long they could hang out in the castle without having to surrender. So what the goal is to shoot enough poop and manure, and that could be horse manure or human, over the walls into the streets so that they would just get really tired of being in there. And that's what they did. They used catapults, and they catapulted these huge wads of horse manure over into the castle. And then
you know what? That wouldn't work for me. Cat manure, cat poop.
Oh, yeah.
That would work.
Well, that's true. Chicken
Human
poop.
That would work. Chicken poop. All those. Horse manure, I'd be like, I don't care. It's fine.
So what it did do, though, is by shooting all of this over the walls, it got into their wells and cisterns, and it ruined the water. And then at that point, you didn't have any water to drink. You had to, surrender and leave, right?
People in the castle couldn't drink any water either, right?
That's right. That's because that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to spoil the water. So it was also a breeding ground for flies and pests. So you had that problem when you were in the castle. Again.
No fly preds.
Again, the smell must have been something else. So there you go. And it was also psychological warfare because, who wanted all of that in their streets while they're hunkered down in their castle because they can't leave. So there you go. It was also used for warfare. Dr. Erin's going to join us now, and I bet you she's so happy about that. And she's going to talk about fecal water syndrome.
I would like to welcome Dr. Erin Roddy from Poseidon Animal Health to the show. As usual, we love to have you on to talk about all things veterinarian, but it is poop week, so we are going to talk about poop and something that I actually don't know a whole lot about. And I guess a lot of our listeners have been asking for some more information about something called fecal water syndrome. Welcome to the show, Doc.
Good morning. How's everyone today?
Fantastic. It's one of those weeks where we're just trying to make it through. And so here we are talking about something that is a bit of a mystery to me and I guess to a lot of people that have this going on because you can't figure out what happens. And so I guess, I'll pull the string and let you go. Tell us, what is fecal water syndrome in horses?
Absolutely. I was actually really excited when you guys asked me to come on and talk about this because
Really?
if it's a yeah, absolutely. If it's a question
She might be the only one.
I love you so much.
No, I get asked this question a lot, and it's something we talk about a lot, and I think it is really relevant. And that's what I love about this show is you guys are trying to bring the people the information that they want to have, and that's important. So fecal water syndrome, let's start at the top, and you can stop me along the way. It's actually called free fecal water syndrome. And the free is important because it distinguishes this abnormality from diarrhea. So we're going to get down in the dirt with the poop. If the poop itself is malformed, liquidy, smells bad, the entirety of it, that is diarrhea, right? We want our poop to look like road apples. I know we've talked about this before, but we should be able to pick it up and throw it with our hand and not be overly grossed out by that idea. And I know that's what Glenn likes to do on the weekends. So, that's
my favorite activity.
That's what we're looking for with our manure is that Glenn can pick up the balls and throw them around and it's no big deal.
Plays baseball, he hits it with the manure fork. Yeah.
Exactly right. This is Glenn's weekend activity. When picking up that pile would run through Glenn's hands and just be slop, that is diarrhea. And that's a different topic. And we've talked about that before, and maybe we'll talk about it again. What we're talking about now is free fecal water syndrome. So what that means is that the horse is passing generally fairly normal manure. We've got our balls, we've got piles, but either before or after or alongside the piles, we have free water. So it's just water. Obviously, it gets a little bit mixed with manure and it can be discoloring. And it's so most people don't like it is that it gets in the tail, it gets on the legs, it gets on the walls, it gets all over Glenn's hands. It's a mess. But it's just free water. It's not actually poorly formed manure. I think why we don't talk about it is that from a veterinarian's perspective, it's not actually that big of a deal unless it goes on for a long period of time where it's going to cause dehydration in the horse, or if we have issues where we're getting scalding of the skin or scalding of the rectum because there's just so much fluid and we're having a hard time keeping on top of it.
And I will say, Doc, that's one of the comments that one of our listeners made. That's the problem it's like, they needed something, preparation H or something, because it was so bad.
Absolutely. Yeah, the fluid can just leak a lot onto the legs or onto the rectum. And it's also not fun, nobody wants their horse to be dirty. Nobody wants their horse to be covered in manure. It attracts flies. If you're going to a show or you're going somewhere out in public where you want your horse to be presentable, I have a lot of clients say, in the wintertime, I've got a white pony and I'm up at 3 a.m. washing my white pony in the freezing cold to go to the show. That's not fun for the pony. It's not fun for the rider. It's not fun for anybody. So it's certainly a nuisance. And like I said, if it goes on chronically, it can certainly become a skin problem and it can lead to dehydration. But intermittently, we just want to assure everyone it's not actually a major health concern for the horse, although it is something that we'd like to rectify if we can. So that's the definition of free fecal water syndrome, that we just have this free fecal water that's coming out either before the pile of manure or after the pile of manure or alongside the pile of manure. And the reason that happens, we believe, is because of some form of dysbiosis in the hindgut. And that's just a big fancy word that means that the balance of bacteria, so we know that we all have bacteria in our hindgut. We've got good guys and we've got bad guys. we have to have a mix. Like we do need some bad guys, but we want to have mostly good guys. That's true of humans. It's true of dogs. It's true of horses. When we get an alteration in that balance and we end up with too many bad guys, we call that dysbiosis. And that is related to free fecal water syndrome. Now, the reason we call it a syndrome is because it's not a disease. It means we don't have a cause, a specific cause, and we don't have a specific treatment. It's just these symptoms, this collection of symptoms. So that's kind of what free fecal water syndrome is.
Gotcha. Okay. So as you're talking about it, I realized that my dear sweet Ace, my young thoroughbred, I always have to do what I've talked about on the show is have my husband hold my horse while I do the in-between butt cheek scrub. And at times, I mean, you gotta get up in there. Like the arm disappears like in between the butt cheeks, because what I've realized is he will poop and like he poops normal. So I've never thought of it as a fecal water issue or anything like that. But now that you're describing it, he also poops and then like a little bit of water comes out, like poop water. And I'm assuming that's what it is.
That's exactly it. Poop water it should be the definition rather than free fecal water syndrome. I think that would make a lot more sense to people if we just started calling it poop water. It is poop water.
It's funny, like one of my favorite things to say is when something is discounted, it's like it's free. So like this is not the kind of free I'm talking about, people.
It's not a good free. It's not a good free
poop water.
Yeah, we don't want the poop water. And we don't want it. And look, it's generally not life-threatening, but it certainly can cause discomfort for the horse. And anytime we've got poop hanging around, that's bacteria, right? And that can lead to all sorts of nasty problems. It doesn't smell good. It definitely attracts flies. Certainly on the skin, on an open wound, or just sitting on the skin in the sun, it can cause problems. So most clients come to me and I explain to them what free fecal water syndrome is, and they're like, okay, but how do we get rid of it? And that's my next question. That's your next question. How do we get rid of it? So we need to address the dysbiosis. Now, what's hard about that is that in every horse, what's causing the dysbiosis can be different. In a lot of these cases, we can figure out what the trigger is. Probably number one for me and what I see is a change in hay or a change in feed. If you get people to really pay attention and think about it, they'll go, oh yeah, whenever we get a new load of hay, or there are times of the season where maybe we start feeding more hay or less hay, or we went and bought hay from a different store, or something of that description, something about the forage has changed, that is going to set off a change in the bacteria, because horses are not good with change. We know that they're very rigid, and their bacteria are very rigid. They like everything to be the same. So when we change, even if it's for better hay, or maybe we're coming into the spring and they can get turned out on pasture again, which is absolutely better for them, it's that change that causes the shift in bacteria. Because our good bacteria, they like to eat the same thing every day. They're like Glenn, they're a little bit boring and stuck in their ways. And so they like the same thing every day. And when that changes, they actually die. They actually can't cope with changing food. So then we lose a bunch of good bacteria, and bad bacteria replicate in their place. So if we can figure out the cause of the change and address it, that's often a solution. But for a lot of horse owners, they're like, no, I'm really good with my hay. I buy it, for the whole year, or every time I change, I take 2 to 4 weeks to change, and I really can't identify that. There can be a couple other sources. Usually it's stress of some kind. I actually have a really good client, and she works for a feed company. So she's pretty on to nutrition, and she's on to management, and she's got a miniature pony that is affected by free fecal water syndrome, or poop water. And he's affected whenever we get a storm. So we live in Florida and Ocala, and we get quite a few storms, although this year we have not had many, which is great. But whenever we've got a hurricane or a storm brewing, that pony blows with poop water.
Oh, wow.
Something about the barometric pressure is stressful for him. We don't know if he was caught in a storm at one point in his life, but he remembers. And as soon as that change in barometric pressure happens, it'll go for him. That's all it takes. And he's actually a little cushion-eyed guy, and he's got some other metabolic issues. So it can actually set off a bout of laminitis for him, just that stress cycle. So for him, it actually is a big deal. In a lot of our older horses, the dysbiosis just comes from the nature of them being older. Unfortunately, fortunately, we're taking much, much better care of our horses now. So they're living much longer than nature intended, but their bacteria don't keep up. So they can become dysbiotic in their older years. And that even starts from about 13 or 14 years old, that we really start to see aging in the gut and changes in the way those bacteria work. And so that free fecal water syndrome is certainly a lot more common in those horses. It's a lot more common in thoroughbreds, who we know have poorer hind gut health in general, just from life on the track and from the diets that they're fed and the way that they're kept. So improving your horse's hind gut health is a really good way to do it. And then trying to reduce as much stress as we can is also a really good way to do it. And ways we can do that, sort of the old science, people talked about things like probiotic and psyllium husks. For me, probiotics are really, the science is not there to show that. The theory is there that we want to put more good bacteria into the horse. That's the idea of a probiotic. We know we've lost some good bacteria, so let's put good bacteria in. The problem is, because of the horse's digestive tract, because of the way their stomach works, because of the way their small intestine works, it's very difficult to actually deliver live good probiotics to the hind gut and get them to stay. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Psyllium husk, this is a little bit old science, but the theory is good, is that's what's called a prebiotic. So that's actually food for the good bacteria. So we're actually trying to give them more food and encourage them to be healthier, which is great. The new science that's coming out is actually showing that something called postbiotics is the most effective way to improve hind gut health. Postbiotics, you're going to love this, Jamie, are actually the poop of probiotics.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds delicious. I'm so excited.
Right. So we're going to take our little live bacteria, our probiotics, we're going to feed them prebiotics, and then they're going to make postbiotics. They're going to make poop. They're going to make metabolites. And that actually makes them more happy. For bacteria, swimming in their own poop is great. They really like it. They like that environment. It's good for the horse. The horse likes the poop of the good bacteria. Everybody's happy with those postbiotics. So what we look for now in terms of feed or supplementation or ways to improve hind gut health quickly is actually to use pre and postbiotics. We're finding that probiotics aren't as effective. Another thing we want to look for is our ability to buffer that environment. So the good guys like a basic environment. We're going back to 7th grade acid base here. The bad guys like an acidic environment. So if you can include buffers, hind gut buffers, that will also help improve your hind gut microbiome.
Okay, hold on. So like forever, everybody was like, you have to have probiotics. I mean, just for humans. And then they're like, now you have to have prebiotics. And now we've got to have postbiotics. We just have to be biotic saturated, I guess.
Well, because we're learning more and more that the biotics, which is what make up the microbiome, they are everything. So we absolutely want probiotics. And in humans and in dogs, we have figured out ways of delivering good live bacteria to the hind gut in an effective manner. We just haven't really figured out how to do that in horses yet. I would love to get to that point, and there's a lot of research going on, and there's a lot of attempts to do it, and it's really cool science. But right now, it's a little bit hit or miss. We just don't know enough about the biome in the horse and about what's good and what's bad and about what can survive. But we know it's a little bit like if you were driving down the road and you got a flat tire and you had 2 tire shops. We had the F1 guys, right? They are a retired F1 team. They're on one side of the road. They're going to charge you $200 to fix your tire. On the other side of the road, we've got Bubba and his dad running their own shop. They're both drunk. We're not sure when the last time they actually fixed a tire was, and they're also going to charge you $200. Who would you choose?
Well, I'm going F1 all the way.
You're going F1 all the way, right? Because they're going to give you the results that you need, and they're going to do it quickly and efficiently, and it's a guaranteed outcome. They're postbiotics. Bubba and his dad are probiotics. They might get it done. Bubba might be great, but he also might not have the tire. He also might be drunk. He also might have forgotten how to change a tire. It's a bit hit or miss. So you want to go with the guaranteed thing. Right now, we know that postbiotics are the guaranteed thing that are going to improve dysbiosis in the horse. The probiotics may or they may not. I'll say it again. I know I've said it before. The best way to deliver probiotics to your horse is variety of fiber and variety of forage. That's your best option for actually delivering good bacteria to your horse. Outside of that, your next best option for improving the microbiome is postbiotics.
You mentioned stress and about that poor little pony who gets stressed with barometric pressure changes.
Doesn't like the storm.
And I thought of that too, like, you know, in the world, I train horses, and in every horse is different, right? So they all have different behaviors, they have different memories, they have different histories, they have different jobs, they have different breeding. And with that, they would all have different things that cause stress. So I was thinking, like, the horse that's afraid of storms, like I have, you know, Homer, my basset hound, doesn't care about storms, but my border collie is like, oh my God, we're all gonna die. And she's never had a bad day in her life. She's never been struck by lightning. It's just like different things that cause different stressors in our dogs and our horses. You know, like I have one horse that gets picked on all the time. And so at bring-in time, his world is stressful. It's like, oh my God, everybody's so mean to me. When they're all out, it's fine. Storms, when another one sees a storm, that's their stressful thing. When one horse comes in the cross ties and they start pooping and stuff and they start to have anxiety for work, that's another stressor. So I think with what I'm hearing you say is like, you kind of have to pay attention to getting back to the stress part. What is the thing that is causing your horse the stress, or the dietary imbalances, or the micro imbalance, or some medical conditions, or feeding habits, or anything like that? I feel like all of this is going to be very individualized for each horse. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that's what's really frustrating about it. And that's why I actually really wanted to come on and talk about this, is because it's a syndrome, right? Free fecal water syndrome. It's not a disease. So it is different for each horse. And the stress, what causes a horse to be stressed, is going to be different, even within one barn, even within one family. But what we know is that stress is actually a reflection of the health of the hindgut bacteria. And the hindgut bacteria's ability to be resilient in the face of stress is what then affects the horse's health and their behavior. So even if we can't figure out what is causing the stress, because I have had clients that have tried, they've removed every source of forage, because sometimes forage itself can be stressful. If your horse doesn't have, I oversimplify this, but if your horse doesn't have the bacteria to ferment Timothy hay, you can feed them the most beautiful Timothy hay in the world, and that will be stressful for them because they don't have that bacteria. And you can say that for any different kind of forage. So we have people that actually stop feeding hay altogether, and they go to a completely pelleted diet, whether it's hay pellets or a complete feed pellet, to try to remove whatever is stressing the horse and try to eliminate it. And sometimes that works, and sometimes it doesn't. And you can go around and around and around. Sometimes it's easy to find the source of the stress. Sometimes you'll never find the source of the stress. And in those situations, all we can say is, well, we can't remove the stress because we can't, I used to work for a cowboy in my youth, and the cowboy used to say to me, I would love if we could take the horse in and plug it into the computer, like your car when you take it to the mechanic. They plug it into the computer and they tell you what's wrong, right?
Mm-hmm,
if we could do that, my life would be so much easier. My job would be so much easier. Sometimes we cannot find the cause of the stress, no matter how hard we try. In those situations, all we can do is try to improve the health of our microbiome. And by doing that, we make the horse more resilient to the stress, and we make the stress less effective on the horse. So if we can't remove the stress, we have to make the horse more resilient to stress. And that's why I'm always on here talking about digestive health and talking about the things we can do to improve digestive health. Because unfortunately, sometimes we actually had a webinar on travel last night. And travel is stressful on horses. We know that. We all try our best to make it as least stressful as possible, but sometimes you have to put your horse on the truck and you've got to take it somewhere. So how do we make the horse more resilient to that stress when we can't take the stress away? And that's always going to be by diet management and improving the digestive health as much as we can.
And now we're going to have to end on that. So thank you, Dr. Erin, for joining us. We really appreciate it and explaining all this. It's funny what Jamie said about stress applies to people too. We all have our different things we stress about, right? I mean, it's pretty much the same, right?
It's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
I'm going to start spoon feeding myself Poseidon's animal health, all the digestive HP, stress pace. Like, I'm just going to start pumping myself full of it.
If only we made it for people, right? They actually do make postbiotics for people, and I do recommend that to people all the time.
Oh, wow.
It works in people too.
my microbiome to poop in my own gut, and then
Yes.
You know what I learned this
I
week?
knew you'd love that. I knew you'd love that.
Dr. Erin, you
Katie.
know what I learned this week with all of our guests on
did you
Poop
learn?
Week? There's a lot of people passionate about poop in this world. All of our guests have proved that this week.
You know,
I've
it's
gotta
a
get
really
my-
important thing. I don't know when we all decided in society that poop was bad, but it is, particularly in animals. You know, they can't talk
tell
to
you
us.
when
They
we
can't tell
decided.
us how they're feeling.
I'll tell you when we decided. We had an example of it from a listener on Monday who stepped in their dog poop after they went all over the house. That's when we decided poop was bad, and I'm going to leave you with that,
Have
Erin.
you ever read the story? There is a story. You got to find it on Facebook. There's a great story of a guy whose Roomba.
Oh,
got
yes,
a puppy.
we talked about that.
That's my
just really
favorite.
gross.
That's when poop became a bad thing. But it's important, and I'm glad you guys are talking about it, and I'm happy to talk with you anytime.
Thanks, Dr. Erin.
Okay, have a great day.
Want to reach a passionate, engaged audience of horse lovers? The Horse Radio Network, with thousands of listeners worldwide, offers unique sponsorship opportunities to connect your brand with horse owners, riders, and enthusiasts. Over 90% of our listeners have bought a product from an HRN ad in the past year. Partner with HRN and take your brand to the next level. Visit www.horseradionetwork.com/advertise today.
Time to learn why some days you're embarrassed to be part of the human race. In Jamie's Weird News.
Yes, it never stops. Weird things keep happening all across the world, and specifically in Florida. And we're going to cover some of those today. There's more than one. But I would like to thank the people that are sending me in weird news stories from their neck of the woods. If you're ever looking through the news, wherever you get it, and you see something and you think, that's really weird, email it to weirdnews@horseradionetwork.com, just like Delia, Michelle, Kimberly, Sarah, Laureen, Amanda, Laurie, Rosemary, Kaylin, Carrie, Lindsay, Shelly, Julia, and Jolyn all did. You guys, I really appreciate it. Thank you so very much. I'm going to actually start with, it's weird, but it's also heroic, Glenn. This woman in Florida, in Land O'Lakes, Florida, is a hero. And here's what happened. She has this puppy. I've got a picture of it. I don't know what kind it is. It's kind of like a mix puppy, and it's 4 months old. So she decides she's going to take her puppy for a walk. Now, she's in Central Florida, alligators are a thing, but she's just behind her house. Like, she's never seen any alligators back there. So she takes little Dax for a walk, and she's got him on a leash, and she's kind of looking at her phone and walking along, and she hears a squeal. And she said, then she got pulled backwards. A freaking alligator had grabbed her dog and actually he had an air tag on his collar, and grabbed the air tag and drug him that quick into the water. Like, she said she was 15 to 20 feet away from the water. That's how fast it came up, grabbed the dog, and immediately pulled her and the dog back towards the water. The dog went in the water. Well, I mean, Mama Bear, don't you mess with a Florida woman with a puppy. She jumps on top of the freaking alligator and starts punching and punching and punching and punching. And she punched him in the eye so many times that he unclamped just a little bit. And the alligator, when it unclamped, then it went and bit her arm, but like raked its teeth down her arm, the front of her arm. And at that time, it let go of the puppies. So she grabs the puppy and she rolls out of the water with this alligator and saved the day. This was a 5-foot alligator.
Okay, she's a lot braver than I would be, because I'm not.
Oh my
I'm not
God.
hopping on the alligator. I don't care. Take Fluffy. I'm not hopping on the alligator.
Don't mess with my baby.
She's one tough Florida woman. Would you have hopped on the alligator?
I mean, what dog is it? You taking home, or I'm gonna bite you. I'll bite the gator. I don't care. I'm going in. So yeah, she said that was
That's,
a
your
reminder-
answer was brutally honest. And I think we all have had that dog that we would have went, you know what?
Oh man, that sucks. She had a good life. That's fine. So sorry, I'm gonna pay better attention. She said she has learned to be more alert.
Yeah, no
constantly walking around. Don't look at your phone. Leave your phone at home and pay close attention.
You said she was near her house. So, I mean,
she said she's never seen him back behind her house before.
Well,
She's always back there.
He's there.
Yeah. Here he is.
He moved in. I don't know who he got a ride from, but I always wondered that. We lived in a neighborhood, the first neighborhood we lived in had an old dried up pond, and apparently occasionally alligators. How did they get there? They would have had to walk a long way to get there.
When I was driving through Louisiana, I drove from Georgia to Arizona, and I was driving through Louisiana, and I was fairly close to the coast. And so the road is left is water and right is what you're kind of like I don't know how they even built roads in these areas, but I would be driving along and I would see alligators that had been hit by cars, and I was like, please don't break down. Please don't break down. Please don't break down. Because they're everywhere. And so when you ask how they get around, they just walk. They just cross the street. And then can you imagine hitting an alligator running into a speed bump at 70? That would have to damage
your entire suspension system.
Oh, man, you're toast.
That's a heck of a hard speed bump.
One more reason to not live in Florida or Australia or Louisiana. Man, we're going to go to Canada because people are so nice in Canada. They're just nice sometimes. But there's a man named Casper Lincoln, and he was a little drunk, and he decided that he wanted to go up to the local gas station to get a Slurpee. But he didn't want to walk. So he got
something I think about when I'm drunk, Slurpees.
Man, I gotta give me a slush puppy. No, it's not a thing. But apparently in Canada, the sweet Casper Lincoln, bless his heart, I don't know why I said that. But he got behind the wheel and started driving to the local Slurpee provider. So he gets in behind the wheel and he's driving down the road. And there are several witnesses that saw the police pull him over. And they're like, flash, whoop, whoop. They pull this guy over to the side of the road and they get him out and he's clearly drunk. And all these people stopped. Everybody pulled over to watch this guy get arrested. Why was everybody watching him get arrested, Glenn? Why was it so interesting to see this poor, the witness says, everybody was just watching him. He was living his best life, happy as a clam. We were actually kind of jealous, says Andrea Sturgard, who was with her coworkers when they saw him driving down the road getting pulled over. Why did everybody stop to talk to him and to watch this whole thing unfold? What was he driving?
I don't know.
He was driving a Barbie Jeep.
One of the little ones?
Yes.
Okay, that would do it.
He said he had no idea he was breaking the law. He just hopped in a kid's Barbie Jeep and was driving down to the gas station to get a Slurpee. He just didn't want to walk.
The Barbie Jeep and the Slurpee, they go together, actually. Oh, my God. That had to be a Florida story. You sure you didn't get it wrong?
It was Canada, but don't worry. We're going back to Florida right now because I think you sent this one to me. And this is there was a robbery at we're going to Lake Buena Vista, Florida, because there's a paddlefish restaurant.
This is at Disney. This is at Disney Springs. This is at Disney.
So is this is the paddlefish restaurant
restaurant area? Yeah, and there's a big lake. So
there's a big lake there. There's water there and everything. Okay, is it a huge lake?
It's big, yeah.
And I just feel like we just learned not to swim in lakes in Florida. But this
it's a Disney lake. There's no gators in Disney Lake. Oh, yeah, there is. That's right.
Yeah. We've learned there are. They're everywhere. But this guy didn't care. He donned his wetsuit and scuba gear and scuba dove up to the paddlefish restaurant. Now, was it open? No, it was shortly after midnight and it was closed. However, there were store employees in that were winding up the day, counting the money and putting things away and cleaning up. Well, this man hopped in his scuba gear, scuba dove and swam all the way over to the paddlefish restaurant, climbed out, took off his scuba gear and hung it up, and then walked inside and was like, sees two employees, and he's like, go to the corner and close your eyes. That is some serious Florida. Like, that's how I'm going to rob you. I'm going to tell you to turn around and close your eyes. So they sends two people over to the corner and makes them close their eyes. And then he walks into the manager's office, soaking wet, although he'd taken off his scuba gear, and robbed the store. They said he stole between $10,000 and $20,000 from the manager, who was counting all the money made that day. Make sure.
God, this has to be an inside job. How he knew exactly when to go.
He knew exactly where to go and what to do. So he walked in, found the manager, took the money, put it in his shirt pocket or whatever, and left within 2 minutes. Okay. Apparently, one of the stories says that he did tie up the employees, but the other one says he didn't. But after he left, they got untied and freed themselves and called 911. Within 2 minutes, this guy came in, robbed them, went back out, put his scuba gear back on, hopped into the lake, and swam away.
So they never did catch him?
They haven't found him yet. They're like, this dude is like the perfect crime.
He's brighter than most of Florida men robbing things.
Yeah, but are you bright to scuba dive in a alligator-infested lake?
Well, we think it worked. We don't know if he got back.
Maybe they're going to see floating money here soon. But yeah, so the restaurant opened the next day with they said no obvious signs of an increase in security around paddlefish, although they do say that it's under tight security, but it's just not visible to the public. Well, I think it needs to be made more visible. Yeah.
Maybe an electric fence around the base of the dock. I don't know. Mm-hmm. That's got to be a first in all of our weird news, a scuba diving robber.
A scuba diving robber.
That's got to be a first. Wow. He's a smart Florida man.
Now we're going to probably visit somewhere that, I don't know, you've probably been there. Have you ever been on a boat called the Rhapsody of the Seas?
No, but it's a Royal Caribbean one. I think it's a very small Royal Caribbean one.
Okay, yeah. So it was in the port of San Juan in Puerto Rico on September 7th. And there's a gentleman named Hey Gonzalez Diaz, and he was on the ship. Well, apparently he racked up a fairly aggressive gambling debt, as you will, over $16,000 that he was owing the cruise line. So the boat sets off from the port of San Juan on August 31st. And by Sunday, September 7th, he's got a $16,000 gambling debt. And they're like, hey, man, we're going to need you to take care of this as soon as we get back to shore. So he's like, okay, fine. And so they head back out, heading back towards where they started. And at some point, instead of paying the debt, he just jumped. He jumped into the ocean, like off the ship. Now, they had actually made it close to port. So he jumps off the ship to avoid disembarking, where he then have to pay his fees.
They got him flagged.
Yeah, they're going to keep an eye on that guy. So he jumps overboard, and they're like, hey, you guys go get that guy in the water. So a couple people hop on jet skis and they drive over and they get him. He literally tried to think he could avoid the
Is he going to swim back to the dock?
He was next to the dock. So he just jumps off in the port and thinks he's going to swim over to a different part of the dock and then climb out onto, I'm assuming what would be, it's like you can't walk out of a port, right? You have to climb up on the docks and stuff. So he thinks he's going to get out. Anyway, he has been arrested and charged with a federal crime and was brought to shore by two jet skis. So congratulations.
I did read a little bit more on this one because I sent it to you, or I think I sent you that one. He had 5 different identities on him.
Oh, so he's a great dude.
Yeah, he had 5 different identities on him. And apparently the one he took the cruise using that identity was fake. So he's
reason $9,427,012 to not go on a cruise ship.
Or maybe control your gambling, one of the two. Are we? Do we have another one?
That's it.
No,
We're
that's
done. I can't take it anymore.
16,000. You know what that happened there? You and I can appreciate this. He kept thinking, well, I'm going to win it back. I got up to 5,000. I can win it back.
Yeah, but at what point are they like,
cutting them off.
did he give him a credit card or something?
Yeah.
Like, how does that work?
I always thought you had to have it. You had to have a credit card to back up your gambling debts, but maybe not. I don't know. I never gambled $16,000 before, so I don't know.
I mean,
I'm really the $100 guy. As soon as I hit the $100 lost, I'm out.
I'm out. See ya. See you next time, Vegas.
Oh, by the way, $100 won, I'm out too. So either way, I'm out. I was there because you know why? Because you and I have talked about this before. I know I could have a gambling problem, and I just don't allow myself to.
Oh,
because I could be the guy to sit there all night. Because I really like blackjack. And I could sit there all night and I could lose a lot of money, but I just don't allow myself to.
Many times I've had to pull Chad away from the table. Like, get up, let's go, come on.
Remind him that the next time he turns your TV off.
There you go. I'll leave you in Vegas.
That's funny. All right, that's it for today's Poop Week. We got one more day on Friday, and we are also going to be doing some bad ads, so get your ads into Jennifer at horseradionetwork.com. And we're going to hang out with the auditors here in a couple of minutes. We have no idea what we're going to talk about, but we'll figure that out. And as usual, just like we did on Monday's show, I have a poem, a poop poem that was written by AI, read by Ashley
Lord.
in her best AI voice. So here is the talented Gemini.
I clean it in summer, I clean it in snow. I clean it wherever the horses will go. Fresh piles are steaming, they're squishy and hot. They fog up my glasses. Oh joy, what a spot. The dry ones are tricky, they crumble and drift. Like dusty brown tumbleweeds, light as a gift. They scatter and scatter, they float on the breeze. I sneeze while I scoop them. Achoo, please. Then wintertime strikes with its icy surprise. The poop turns to boulders of mammoth-like size. I whack with my shovel, I stomp and I pry. It's frozen so solid, it laughs when I try. Yet still every morning, I show up and grin. For horses are worth every scoop from the bin. Their noses are velvet, their knickers are sweet, so I'll muck all their presents. Oh, what a treat.
Spay neuter gals.
Should have a trigger warning on the ice poop thing. It's coming.
It's a tremendous.